Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There are many cities around the world where iconic and timeless music has come from. London, New York, Liverpool, LA. Also included in that list has to be Manchester. So many great music artists that have shaped and influenced music have come from the city. We are here to choose our favourite songs. And here's Neil with 10 Manchester song facts.
Thank you very much, Pav. So I thought it'd be interesting to find out what the music press and the members of the public would think of their top 10 favourite bands from Manchester. So online, I found, in association with Radio X, a music journalist, and the public, here is their top 10. At number 10, best Manchester band at 10 is the Buzzcocks.
Don't be afraid of your freedom.
At number 9, voted in was Blossoms. At number 8 is James. At number 7, they voted the Happy Mondays. At number 6 was Oasis. At number 5, the Stone Roses. Number 4, New Order. Number 3, Joy Division. Number 2, The Smiths. And the number 1 band voted by everybody was 10cc.
When I'm cleaning windows.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was hoping one of those might have just kind of like worked out the same, but unfortunately they didn't. So yes, we are here to talk Manchester and all of that kind of stuff. Our guest this week is football finance expert, who's a very busy boy today, to be fair, and co-host with friend of the pod, Kevin Day, in the Price of Football podcast. It's Kieran Maguire. Hello, Kieran.
Hi, chaps. It's an absolute honour to be on this. You've nearly got me divorced in terms of the amount of time I've had to set aside. I'm still only scratching the surface, in my view. But it's been. Thank you very much for the invite. To be able to talk about God's own city is a privilege and an honour.
Absolutely. Well, there is no wrong list, is there?
There is no wrong list. But I do feel like both yourself and Kevin have had a lot of marital problems getting their top 10 sorted out. Which, but, you know, it's one thing. Before we do talk everything Manchester and everything music, obviously you are a well-renowned football finance expert. I was only listening to Talk Sport a couple of weeks ago, and you were on there talking. I think it was about Southend. I think you were talking about. How did you get into that? What, is that obviously it's obviously your business?
Like many things in life, it's a series of sliding doors moments. I trained in as an accountant. I was a rubbish accountant. I always wanted to teach. So I've been teaching finance since the 80s. And my teaching life has been in Manchester and Liverpool. So I've always used the local football clubs as a means of communication, because trying to engage people, late teens, early 20s in the world of finance is quite a tough gig. But if you can go and tell them a story about Manchester United or Liverpool or something unusual, then that's a way of sort of using football as a Trojan horse. And the university used to tolerate that. So I originally was teaching in Manchester, and I love university life, but the pay's a bit rubbish. So I moonlight, and I moonlight by teaching investment bankers. And in 2005, I'm down in London. I'm teaching at a particular bank. I go out for lunch at about 1:15. come back half an hour later, and there's these two huge bouncers on the front door. And I'm going, it's a bit strange for an investment bank. And I've noticed that all of the windows have been shuttered. And again, this seems a bit strange. So I walk back into the class and I say, what's going on here, folks? And they say, well, one of our clients, the Glazer family, is just about to announce that they've bought Manchester United. And we think that a load of Cockney Reds might come and put the windows in when they find out the terms of the deal.
Oh, right.
So I'm going, oh, right. So I pick up on the deal. And, it's not great from a footballing point of view, but it certainly is different. And then I'm travelling back to Manchester that night. The BBC phoned the university saying, this has all gone through. This is all a huge story. Can somebody come on the breakfast sofa on BBC One tomorrow morning and explain the situation? So I roll in. I explain the nature of the deal. And I think the way that it works in the media is that if you don't make a complete fool of yourself, you go onto somebody's Rolodex, and the next time there's a football finance story, they call you in. And since then, it has snowballed. So now I teach football finance at the University of Liverpool as a formal subject, whereas I used to do it sort of sneakily previously. I probably do somewhere in the region of 700 to 800 interviews a year for TV, radio, newspapers, podcasts, you name it. And the work with Kevin has again sort of completely baffled us. We're on almost 10 million downloads of our podcast, which has been going now for 4 years, and there's so much material because it has become, rightly or wrongly, and in my view wrongly, it's become an issue. People want to know about financial fair play. They want to know what the owners are up to, because football is such an emotional business. You're there from cradle to grave as a fan of an individual club, and therefore people want to know everything about the club. If I take my car to get MOT'd, I don't give a hoot about how Chris's business is doing. I'm not interested in his finances. But when it's a football club, because you think that you own it, you think that you're an investor in it, and you do invest in a football club. You invest emotionally. So if I've got any skill, it's a way of taking reasonably complex financial scenarios and communicating them in a user-friendly manner. And this isn't false modesty. I think I'm smart, but I work with super smart people in banks, in the investment industry, in the university itself. I'm working with all these professors. But what I can do is, because I'm not as smart as them, I can explain things to the bloke in the pub, and that's why I've ended up, the media like that, based on the podcast feedback, the listeners like that, and I've got a job which, as somebody who trained to be an accountant, I couldn't hope for anything better. I talk about football for a living now.
Well, back in the day, say pre-Premier League, no one really knew in the general public who owned football clubs, did they? They were always like faceless guys in suits. I mean, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I can remember it was John Smith, I think was the guy's name back in the day, back in the old days. Was it the Premier League that sort of, when that sort of kind of money came into the league, that changed everything?
Yes, I think what we've seen over the 30 years of the Premier League is that initially we had Jack Walker at Blackburn. He was a disruptor.
Yeah.
And it was his wealth that allowed Blackburn to sign David Batty, Tim Sherwood, Alan Shearer, Chris Sutton, and so on. And it made people realise that having wealth could accelerate a football club. And he started off with millions. Then we had Roman Abramovich did the same in 2005, so 2003, when he acquired Chelsea. But you then realised you needed another zero or two zeros to make a difference. Sheikh Mansour did exactly the same at Manchester City. And of course, recently, as recently as 2021, we've had the Saudi Arabian Investment Fund come in and acquire Newcastle. So it has become a rich man's plaything, and it's also become an international plaything. I mean, you rightly said it was always associated with the local bloke, and you'd see these people on Match of the Day, and they all dress the same, and Yeah, they were smoking their cigars. They were supplying dodgy meat to schools for school meals or something like that. And yeah, and it was very much a local business. The Premier League has turned football. It's turned football in this country because it was a pariah sport. Being a football fan in the 80s, you were really looked down upon. You were looked down upon by government, you were looked down on by the media and so on, with issues of hooliganism, the tragedies of Hillsborough, the tragedies of Heysel, and so on. And you were a second class citizen. The Premier League has changed that round. It's now broadcast to 190 countries. You have people travelling to the UK from all over the world to watch matches, and that has put a lot of money into the sport. I can bore for Britain in terms of numbers, but if we take a look at inflation since 1992, when the Premier League started, inflation has been 94%. The money going into football has increased by 2,600%, and players' wages have increased by 3,400%. So it's a transformed industry, and that attracts intrigue. And social media, the rise of smartphones, their ability to communicate in different ways and engage with clubs and players has expanded the interest that we see in the game today.
Wow.
Fascinating. Can we ask before we start then, Kieran, would you tell us who your team is?
Yeah, I support Brighton and Hove Albion, which, given that our biggest rivals are Crystal Palace, who Kevin Day supports, when we started the podcast, we were effectively brought together by producer Guy, who used to work for the BBC. And I'd suggested Kevin as a co-host because I really admired his work on Match of the Day. And also, even though he supports my team's biggest rival, when we nearly went bust in 1997, I remember Kevin Day doing a benefit gig for the team that he hated because he could see the big picture. So I really wanted to work with Kevin, and it's been an absolute pleasure and an honour. Yeah, we become friends, and I think he walks on water as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy. He really is.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, football aside, we're actually here to sort out our favourite songs from Manchester. So now I don't know about you guys, but I made a point because I'm an Oasis fan. I could have had 3 or 4 Oasis songs, but I've only put one in because I didn't want to clamp, to fill up the whole top 10. Kieran, in regards to the makeup of your top 10, did you find it easy to put together?
I found it reasonably easy to put together a top 40.
Right.
Yeah. Narrowing it down, because I've got a list of my 11 to 20, and I'm going to go, how can I possibly leave them out? It was a really painful but joyful experience at the same time.
Right.
I went to university in Manchester in 1980, and that was driven by my love of music and my love of football. And I had 3 amazing years as an undergraduate there, and the majority of my working life's been at university, so I have been very fortunate. But Manchester music I loved, and trying to narrow it down. And at the end of this, I'm going to have to go and apologise to 10 bands who I think should have been in. I've restricted this to 1 song per band,
right?
I think in the same way as you, because otherwise you could end up with easily half dozen songs from Unknown Pleasures or a Fall album or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is going to be another top 10 that will just cement my reputation as not having like a cool upbringing in regards to music. I'm just going to say that right from now. Neil, I'm assuming that I'm pretty sure I know what a few of yours are going to be. But let's kick on. So, Kieran, give us your number 10.
My number 10 is from James, and it is Born of Frustration, which was one of their hit singles during that. They sort of had a period when they were very chart friendly. But I know James as a Manchester band, and this isn't a case of I knew them before they were big. Everybody in Manchester knew James before they were big as such. They are one of the greatest bands around for a live performance. So songs which sound good on the radio just take on a completely new identity when they are performed live. And Tim Booth was one of those performers who just knows how to be a frontman. So yeah, I'm indie. Yeah, that's my background, and they're magnificent.
I agree. I'm a fan of James, a huge fan, as you'll probably find out later on. And I just like their ability to write a catchy song.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? They every song I seem to have heard, even album tracks, they leave earworms with you. And yeah, I'm a big. And Tim Booth is a front man. He knows how to perform. Watching live performances, even up to this year, some of his live performances, still controls that crowd fantastically.
Yeah, were they at Glastonbury or somewhere like that? Because I saw some footage of him, and he doesn't sound any different.
No.
To back from when would that been? Late 80s, early 90s, wouldn't it? And there was a bit I saw, I loved it. He was on stage, and he got a load of people up on stage and took all of their mobile phones off them.
Oh, so that's the Isle of Wight.
Is that the Isle of Wight? So that they couldn't film, so they were just in the moment, which I thought was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Great one to kick us off with. Go on then, Neil. You're number 10.
So it's a Smith song, and it's This Charming Man. Now, I have something of a love-hate relationship with the Smiths and Morrissey, because I go through periods where I absolutely love their songs, and I can listen to them over and over. And then I go through periods where I just can't be bothered. So I had to pick This Charming Man because it's still on my playlist. And this is my famous playlist that songs that I really like get stuck on there, which is how I've chosen a lot of these. When I say playlist, I mean my Apple Music. You could do it on Spotify playlist. Yeah, this is a happier in the music style, but not lyrically, of the Smiths. And I just, it's a catchy one, isn't it? It's a catchy one. I was fortunate enough to see Morrissey live when he played Swindon Oasis venue.
Wow.
It was in the sort of 2007, I think it was. May have been a bit later. It's the famous one where he came on, he sang one song and collapsed, and then the show was cancelled. He was hospitalized, and we never got to see him again in the Swindon shores.
Oh, right.
But yeah, so I haven't fully seen him live. I've seen him live do one song, and that's it. But we talk about frontmen. Morrissey probably has to be one of the biggest frontmen of all time, I think. You know, he hit the ground running. I mean, I remember being at school. I was more of a rocker, I suppose, at those times. But there were all the Smiths fans getting their big quiffs and floppy hair and having their tulips hanging out the back,
pocket,
and everything, and the open shirts and things like that. So yeah, I'm going back into my Smiths phase, I think, and that's thanks to this top 10 that we're doing.
See,
are you a fan, Kieran?
Yeah, you're a Smiths fan.
Yes, and like you, I am conflicted. One of my greatest moments of my life, I was at a party of a guy who was a builder, it turned out that he built Johnny Marr's kitchen, and Johnny Marr came to the party. Nobody knew who he was, and there's me there as a massive Smiths fan, and I spent 3 hours just in complete awe as he dropped anecdote after anecdote as life with the Smiths, life with the Pretenders, life with Electronic and the Pet Shop Boys and the. So yeah, Johnny Marr is one of my all-time heroes. Morrissey frustrates me because, like every slightly out of synchronous individual in that period of time, you sense you had that sense of identity. You had that sense of we're outsiders, but we understand each other. And I think Morrissey was very good articulating that. But as he's become what I can only describe as a complete arse.
Yeah.
In terms of being controversial is one thing, but embracing the National Front and Nigel Farage and that type of thing. It doesn't go down well in Manchester with sort of for what is ultimately is a liberal student indie crowd. and he's completely at odds with Johnny Marr as well. So when it comes to a choice between Morrissey and Marr, there's only ever going to be one winner for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll say a bit about the Smiths later on. Well, gonna get myself all. Okay, my number 10. One for the kids here. We got this. This one. This is the 1975 and When We Are Together. Now, I think it was about this time last year when they were on tour, and there was lots and lots of videos on TikTok of Matt Healy doing whatever it is he's doing live on stage and eating raw meat and stuff. And I thought, he's just another one of these guys that's just doing stupid things to get on the TikTok and stuff like that. And I started listening to some of the music, and my daughters actually said, you'd like some of their stuff. You want to listen? So I had a little listen, and there was it was live at K-Rock, actually, Neil, in LA.
Okay.
They did an acoustic set, and they were like, there was like 2 or 3 songs in, and I thought, wow, actually, this is pretty good. And then I listened to another one. I thought, wow, that's really, they're really talented. So I listened to a couple, and this one, I think, is from the latest album. It's a beautiful song with some really, really nice lyrics, but I'm being a bit more trendy there with that.
Yeah, the 1975 with me is my son's a huge fan. I think it's a generational thing because I've tried. He's recommended. He's made me playlists, but they are talented. But
some of it is a little bit jingly jangly.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it, especially when they keep being pushed into best rock act and things like that.
Yeah, and Matt Healy, I think, is a little bit like
up his own
Marmite. It's like some people love him and some people think he's just an arrogant prick.
Yeah,
and I'm teetering on the brink of that. He's not going to listen to this, so it doesn't matter.
He might do, but
he might
it is what it is.
He might love Kieran's podcast. He might be. I got to get a bit more Kieran. Okay, Kieran, you're number 9, please.
Yes.
You're number 9, please, Kieran. Yeah, we can hear you. You're number 9.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
My number 9, and intuitively I feel that this band should be higher, but it's going to be the Stone Roses. Again, the Stone Roses were a Manchester band before they became a British band. And this is Waterfall from their debut album, but you could probably pick any one of 5 or 6 tracks. It is one of the greatest debut albums of all time, in my view, followed by one of the worst second albums of all time, in second comment. But they caught the moment, that baggy part of Manchester, and somebody who was living in the city at the time, there was that sense of civic pride that we knew about them before you did, and I think Manchester it's quite a chippy city, and there is that element of it. But yeah, great band. Ian Brown, not actually a very good singer, but the Stone Roses wasn't. It was about the vibe, and if you saw them live, I'd say that they're probably the opposite. James, always a very professional band. Just to be Tim would, as you were saying, can still deliver those notes. Ian was never a good singer, but he was able to whip up a crowd because it became a karaoke as opposed to a concert. But he was the lead man.
I must admit, when you said that Stone Roses were a vibe, it was a vibe I never got into. I don't know why. I don't know why it was something, but it's a bit like the Smiths with me as well, and any of these bands that I class as a lot of other people really, really love. It's just something that I just never got into the groove of that particular. I don't know. I mean, Neil, are you a fan?
I'm to an extent. I'm with Kieran. I think the first album is absolutely sublime and a fantastic album. Because I listened to the second album and didn't enjoy it, I sort of lost touch with the Stone Roses, and I need to go back and listen to that first album again because it's got some blinding tracks.
Right,
it really has. But yeah, in and out again with me. Yeah. And Ian Brown famously been chastised, hasn't he, for literally doing karaoke. He was caught just singing to the backing track, wasn't he, recently?
That's true.
So people paying this money, but yeah, you think of Manchester, you think of Ian Brown, though, don't you? As well,
Yeah.
he's one of those ones that's straight up there.
Well, the Stone Roses were like the poster boys for Manchester and that whole
Yeah.
movement, weren't they? I think at that.
And massive when they reformed and did the Wembley gigs. I mean,
Yeah,
I would have
yeah.
loved to have gone. I really would have. I think
Yeah.
that would have been really good. But yeah, I need to get
And
back
they
in.
also the Manchester Walk.
Right.
yeah.
If you remember Harry Enfield,
Yes.
when he used to do Kevin and Perry,
Yeah.
that was based on Ian Brown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
for
You're
sure.
absolutely right. Yeah. I forgot about that. Okay, then Neil, you're number 9.
So it's the Happy Mondays. It's going to be Step On because there's a reason why it got where it got to number 1 and everything. It's a catchy song, but I really enjoy the Happy Mondays. I went to see them when they did their first Reform gig back, when was this, 2005, I think. And I went to Oxford to see them. And we were all in our 40s, bouncing around, reliving our youth. And a couple of these 40-year-olds behind us, all through the support act, I'm very sorry, I forget who they were popping E's constantly. And then the Happy Mondays came on and we all got jiggy and dancing and it was very good. They lasted one song because the E's kicked in. They took so many, they had to get out of the room. It was hilarious. So I'm preoccupied with that. But I'm a fan of the Happy Mondays because it's the clues in the title. They're happy songs when you listen to them. They are. And catchy songs. And they're as funny as now as a double act. Bez and Sean Ryder.
Are they still singing or are they just doing?
Yeah, still going.
Are
They've
they?
just
They
announced
still
a
go?
tour, I think, with In Spiral Carpets and somebody else, I think.
Oh, right.
I can't remember who else it was, but yeah, they've just announced another tour. So I may be tempted if I'm back up and fit in time.
There you go. There you go. Okay. That was your number 9. My number 9 is when I did the research to see who was from Manchester, I didn't realize this band were from Manchester. And this was, I think they might have had maybe 2 hits mid to late 80s. But it's Breakout by Swing Out Sister. Now, I absolutely loved this song when it first came out. It was but when I listened back to this song, I realized just what a absolute mid to late 80s sound it had.
Right, yeah.
This song, but it's such a good song. And I think they maybe had one other hit after this. But this,
Yeah,
I mean,
remember
this to
this
me, this takes me right back to like 86, 87.
Yeah.
Just, it's just got a great chorus. But again, I didn't realize they were from Manchester, so I was able to sort of stick that one in there, really.
It was when we were all trying to be as cool as Miami Vice.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Sort of, cafe culture and just trying to be a bit hipper than we've ever been before.
No socks, rolling up our sleeves on our jackets.
Espadrilles.
Trying to grow stubble just so that we could just have a little bit of stubble. Oh, those were the days. Those were the days. Okay, Kieran, your number 8, please.
My number 8 is the Courtineers, or the Courtiners, or as we prefer to call them, and Not 19 Forever. And the reason why I chose this song, again, I think they're bigger in Manchester than they are nationally. But following the tragedy of the Manchester Arena bombing a few years ago, I'd always liked them. And there was a concert which was taking place at Old Trafford Cricket Ground, and it was a concert of defiance. It was a concert of coming together. There were loads of young people there. It rained for practically the whole thing, and the Courtiners came on, and they just blew the crowd to smithereens. And everybody was hugging, everybody was crying, and this song. Lyrically, I think it's really clever. As a sing-along song, as a collective song, it's absolutely brilliant. And I wouldn't say they're one of my top 10 bands in Manchester, but this particular song, because I associate it with that sense of we're going to fight this. We're not going to let these people beat us. was very memorable for me.
Yeah, I must admit, listening to this now, this is the first time I've ever heard anything by that band. And because I'm very closed in when it comes to music, as anybody who's listened to this podcast knows. But I must admit, it's got a nice sound to it. It has got a really. I'm gonna have to have a listen to some of their stuff, I think. I mean, I don't know what's some of their albums, Kieran. Do you know?
St. Jude is probably the best one.
Okay.
I'm hopeless on album names because
right.
I just go to Apple Music and just download tracks.
That's exactly what I should do, to be fair. You a fan, Neil?
I've never really got into them. It's sort of band that seemed to have passed me by, and I don't know why. Right. I've just written it down to remind me to, to start
more
listening.
Homework. That's what we need, Neil. Yeah. More homework.
And I always love new music.
Absolutely. Okay, then, Neil, you're number 8.
So my number 8, I just mentioned them in my last bit about the Happy Mondays. In Spiral Carpet, This Is How It Feels. I love this song. I really, really love this song. It's quite often in another of my playlists as well. I've got many playlists of this in. It just makes me, I don't know, makes me feel happy, and I don't know why. It just does. I never really got into a lot of the other In Spiral Carpet song, a few of them, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Never really got into them overall, and I don't know why I didn't, especially as I love this song so much. So I've set myself more homework. I've started listening to them before we came on, more of their songs, and I don't know why I didn't get into them more back in the day from this song. Are you a fan, Kieran?
Yeah, I am. I mean, ironically, I think this is one of the greatest songs about depression and male depression, because when you listen to the lyrics, you realize that is the subject that's being covered, and it's being covered in an uplifting way, in a very wry way as well. But it's an absolute cracker. And again, it's one of those songs. If you're in the pub late at night and somebody puts it on the jukebox, everybody knows the words, and everybody's got their arms around each other, and you can belt it out. That they are an Oldham band, I think, more than a Manchester band. And North Manchester versus South Manchester is a separate issue, of course. We are quite tribal in the city, but I like them probably the same as you. I wouldn't put on an album's worth, but 3 or 4 of the tracks, and this has to be their best track by far.
For sure.
And famously, wasn't Noel Gallagher their roadie?
Before
he was famous, wasn't he? And he used to do interviews for radio interviews, like, for them.
Yeah,
from what I can remember.
And it was with the In Spiral Carpets when they played Swindon Oasis that
was
Oasis
really?
got their name. Yeah,
there you go.
All comes
there
back
you
round.
go. All comes back round, indeed. Okay, my number 8. Now, I was singing at a gig one time, and somebody came up to me and said, "You're playing around our place in a couple of weeks, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Is there any chance you could do a song for me? It's a song by Elbow called Grounds for Divorce." I said, "I've never heard of the band. I've never heard of the song." He said, "Could you learn it for me so I can come up and sing it with you?" I said, "I'll do that for you." And I listened to it and I thought, oh my God, this has got one of the greatest riffs ever I've ever heard. And I'd never heard an Elbow song before that. And it is just, I mean, what's the lead singer's name?
Guy Garvey.
Guy Garvey. What a voice. Yeah. What a voice.
It's my number 5, pal.
That's your number 5? Oh, there you go. I didn't think we'd have any...
Yeah. No, I think it's a fantastic song. By far, one of their best songs.
Yeah.
One Day Like This is just bored me now. It's a great song, but it's one of those songs I wouldn't matter if I never heard it again. But this one never fails to still get me.
Yeah, it's such a good song. So I was quite glad. That's one of those little jewels sometimes when you do singing that someone will come up and say to you. It's weird. It's nothing to do with this subject, but the gig I did on Saturday, someone come up and asked if I could do "We Don't Have to Take Your Clothes Off" by Jermaine Stewart. And I hadn't even thought of that song for like 30 years. And I listened to it when I was driving home, and I thought, actually, that's a banger of a tune. There's no way that I can sing it because he's singing it like a woman. It's really, really high. But it's weird. You forget these little nuggets of songs that there have been thousands and thousands that you think, oh my God, what a great tune that was. So yeah, so that is my number 8, Grounds for Divorce by Elbow. So Kieran, your number 7, please.
My number 7 is the Buzzcocks, and it's a B-side. It's the B-side of Harmony in My Head, and it's called Something's Gone Wrong Again. And when Buzzcocks were in their pomp, they had the ability to bring out, and the Jam also had this amazing ability, not to just bring out a single, but to stick something on the B-side as a throwaway, which turned out to be a magnificent song. And I've seen the Buzzcocks live, both with Pete Shelley and since his sad death as well. And Steve Diggle, who sings this, is a mod. You know, he's a mod who was in a punk band,
right?
But he sings it superbly. And sometimes you see people who have this ability to tell a story in 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes, and you go, I couldn't do that in 30 or 40,000 words. And it's just one of those days when you wake up and you wish you hadn't. And it's funny, and it's moving, and it's a great song.
There you go. I only know the hits of the Buzzcocks. I must admit, I wouldn't say I would know any others. Neil, have you?
Well, funnily enough, my number 7 is the Buzzcocks as well. But I've gone more mainstream with the hits because I've gone back to my childhood, a song that I loved and loved and loved when I was a lot younger. Found it in my parents' vinyl collection. It is Ever Fallen in Love. So, yeah, and that took me down a path of of finding out more about the Buzzcocks and enjoying their music. But yeah, it's a reason why it's probably their biggest hit, isn't it? And I still think it holds up today. I think it's a great song. So, but I'm with Kieran. I think the Buzzcocks are underrated, vastly underrated. So people don't seem to talk about them.
I was going to say, Kieran, you said that they're still touring now, but obviously without Pete Shelley, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Pete's passed away sadly a few years ago now. Yeah, they're doing a tour. I think they're being supported by the Undertones.
Oh wow!
Which. Yeah, and if you get a chance to see the Undertones live, it's a terrible thing. It's a far more enjoyable experience without Fergal Sharkey, whose voice is unique. But they were always a fun band, and I think Fergal, who I admire for all his work in terms of his devotion to improving the rivers and streams of this country and the water issues, he's not a barrel of fun, but they've got a new singer that comes in with a glint in his eye. So if you get a chance to see those two together, I'd snap up the tickets.
Right. Yeah. Okay. My number 7. This is my. I'm not a fan of the Smiths. The Smiths I would put in the same as your Happy Mondays and your Stone Roses. I never quite got them and never quite understood how they were sort of so revered by everybody. But Girlfriend in a Coma, for me, is just one of those great songs. You said, Neil, about This Charming Man, what like a happy sort of song. This has got a lovely jaunty kind of tune to it, but with real dark undertones, obviously, in regards to what the lyrics are. But it's such a great tune. It's a great song. But like I say, I felt with it being songs from Manchester, there had to be a Smith song in there. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they're iconically Manchester, aren't they?
Even though, like I say, there should be a Happy Monday song in there and there should be a Stone Roses song in there, but I don't really like any of their tunes as much as the ones I've got in my top 10. So Girlfriend in a Coma, the Smiths, I've got one of those cool bands in my top 10 there anyway. So I feel like I've sort of done my job.
You'll have to do a Smith song when you go on, do one of your gigs. Pal.
No, that would never work.
Yeah.
It's the same as someone asking me to do an Eminem song. It just wouldn't be right. Okay, Kieran, your number 6 then, please.
Well, number 6 is closely linked to number 7 because Howard Devoto was originally in the Buzzcocks and he left, and he formed a band called Magazine, who were ridiculously cool. And this song is called Shot by Both Sides. And the way that it accelerates towards the chorus is magnificent. It was one of those things that when I was in that particular era, the John Peel Festive 50 was always the go-to, and you'd pick up any tunes that you'd missed during the year. And the first time I heard this, I was transfixed. They've, I'm not sure what's happened to Howard Devote. They did reform for a few reunion gigs, and then have disappeared off the face of the earth again. But they were a band who shone very briefly but very brightly, and this is an absolute cracker in my view.
Okay. Magazine. I've heard the name Magazine before.
Yeah.
Was this like their biggest hit, or did they have other big hits?
It was their biggest song. It was never a hit, but it was
right.
It was a hit in the indie charts.
Right.
So unless you were buying the Enemy, you wouldn't. They didn't tend to appear in Sounds. They didn't appear in Melody Maker. They were very much sort of an NME style band,
right,
and big in that particular regard. But they were sort of a bit of a fallout with the Buzzcocks. So in the nature of music, there are the odd divas, as we're fully aware.
Absolutely.
You're not one, of course, Pav. But they tend to go off and create their own projects, and this was a great side project.
Right. Okay.
Right. I'm gonna have to. I've never heard of them.
And remember, our Patreon subscribers will have a video playlist of all these songs, so you can discover them just like we're going to discover them afterwards as well. All the ones we're not quite sure of. Neil, your number 6, please.
So I'm going to the Verve, a band that came through with such we talk about a debut album, such a great debut album there. But I'm going to go for Lucky Man. I really like this song still to this day. I think it just hasn't dated. I love Richard Ashcroft's voice. He's another one I think's just got it. And he was a local boy to us for a while, wasn't he? He lived around our way. But yeah, I Lucky Man. It's a great song, well written. Everything about it gets your foot tapping and going. I don't know what else really I can say about it, but yeah, I would like to have seen the Verve live. Let's put it that way. That's one of the ones I'm gutted I never got to see.
Mm. He's done some great solo stuff as well.
Yeah,
Richard Ashcroft.
Great songwriter, isn't he? He's
great
just
songwriter.
Naturally gifted with these catchy and great songs.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Okay, my number 6. And this is obviously going to do my street cred so much good, but it's Take That, of course. And now I was never a fan of Take That when it was the ultimate boy band when they first started. I didn't have any time for that. But when they went away and then came back again, a bit more of an adult sound, if you like. So it was The Beautiful World was their first album, I think it was, and Patience was their comeback. So Patience for me is just such a great song. And we went and saw them a couple of times live as a family. We went and saw them when Robbie came back, and they've done some really, really good stuff. Not so much now. When there's 3 or 4 of them, and well, I think there's only 3 of them now left, I think. But that first couple of albums when they came back, some really, really good tunes. The Progress album, which was the album that Robbie came back on, has got some banging tunes, some really, really good stuff that just doesn't sound like a boy band at all. It sounds like good, proper, not adult, that's not the right word I'm looking for, but it's just good pop music.
They've grown up.
They've grown up, that's right. They've grown up. And for me, this was their best one, even though it was their first one straight back out. Is it worth me asking if you guys were a Take That fans? Kieran, do you like a bit of Take That?
They're my wife's favourite band.
Right.
And when we first started courting, I've got to be honest. I wouldn't say I'm bigoted, but there is an element of musical snobbery. If you're an indie music fan, then you don't like Take That. I admire Gary Barlow's ability to create a melody, to put together a good pop tune. But I took her to see the Take That musical called Never Forget.
Right.
And I think it was 80% female groups, because it was in London, so hen parties, probably 15% gay couples, and about 3 or 4 stragglers, of which I was one. And I remember getting told off by the woman sitting next to me, to the other side of my wife, saying, you can enjoy this. You can dance and sing along. I don't know the words, and also you're trying to be too cool for your own good. You don't want to be seen to be tapping your toes,
Yeah.
but inside, okay. And actually, this, they do. You admire them, but I can't ever say sort of, the subject matter of the songs for me was always too much geared in the pop love song area. I do have a lot of respect for Gary Barlow, because unlike the other boy bands, at least he made the effort to, he can construct a tune. And as somebody that can't play any musical instrument, and whose biggest regret in life is never learning to play the guitar, and I know it's not too old. That's what I keep telling myself. Then I give him, hat is doffed, but you won't see me at a gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Neil, you love Take That, though, don't you?
Do you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not an album fan, but there's certain songs I think, great, I enjoy. And I'm not one of these people that I couldn't say I don't. I think, is it The Flood? That was the one they did with Robbie. I think it's a great
on the
song.
Progress album, yeah.
I like that song, and there's some others I can't remember the titles of that I enjoy and I like. And the same as Kieran, I think Gary Barlow, although the way he speaks now would be perfect to narrate Thomas the Tank Engine, I think he is a great, great songwriter. We can't get away from the fact. You think how many hits he's written, how many classic songs that have stood the test of times to their fans.
I just wanted to confirm that both of you had to take that song in your top 10, so that's fine. I know.
No.
Okay, before we carry on with anything else, we've got to do this.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Yes, it's quiz time. So I haven't told you about this, Kieran. It's first to three. If you get the question wrong, it goes over to your opponent. Kieran, as you are our guest, would you like to go first or second?
I'll go second.
Okay, so Neil, this one's for you. What was the name of the Smiths' debut album?
Meat is Murder?
It was not. Kieran?
The Smiths.
It was the Smiths. Question number 2 for you, Kieran. Who famously said, "This is Manchester, we do things differently here"?
Tony Wilson.
It was 2-0. And Neil, now, obviously I've done these questions before I know what your top 10s are. So which Manchester band released a single called Not 19 Forever?
1975. I can't remember. Who was it?
Neil. Kieran, for the win.
The Cortinas.
Yes, which is in his top 10, Neil.
Yeah, I missed it.
Oh dear! So
I got confused which one was.
Well done, Kieran. That was the quickest quiz we've had.
Well done, Kieran.
Let me just run through some of the other ones, see if you can get these. What was the original name of Oasis?
I have to pass on that one.
No, it was Rain.
Well,
when was Elbow formed in Bury?
When?
I saw them.
What year?
95.
It wasn't 95. Kieran?
I saw them support Morrissey. I'm just trying to think when that would have been. I'll go 93.
Oh, it was 97.
Oh.
Who played piano on the Hollies hit "He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother"?
Alan Price.
No. Neil?
No, I don't know.
It was one Reginald Dwight. It was
Oh,
Elton John.
Oh, well.
What was the name of the band Liam Gallagher fronted after Oasis?
BDI.
It was. Which famous physicist was in D-Ream?
Brian Cox.
It was. What was the name of the spoof band created by radio DJs Mark and Lard?
The Shire Horses.
Well done, Kieran. It was. And John Squire was guitarist for which Manchester band?
Stone Roses.
It was. Well done. Well done, Kieran.
Yes, well done, Kieran.
Top job there. Okay, back to the matters in hand, and we'll have your number 5, please, Kieran.
This is probably from a band you haven't heard of, but again, a big Manchester band. They're called the Chameleons, and this was probably their most famous single, which is called "Second Skin." I first saw them in 1985. They're still going. They still do two concerts. They sell out in Manchester every Christmas. and the lead singer, who's a guy called Mark Burgess, he's somebody that nobody would have heard. He put out a 600-page autobiography, which was snapped up by all aficionados of back in the day. But they're absolutely cracking band who should have made it, and like many things, events conspired against them. Their manager died, and their manager was the glue who kept them together. There was factions in the band, and they fell apart.
Wow. I feel like I'm going to have to listen to this song properly, because I feel like I recognise the name of that song, that Second Skin, but yeah, I'm going to have a listen to that one properly. It's weird how little things like that, I mean, not a little with somebody dying, but that can change the whole course of a band that could become really, really big, or just won't break through.
Yeah, they were unlucky. There was a lot of infighting by all accounts, but that's not uncommon in Manchester bands.
Right.
No, no,
that's true. Okay, Neil, your number 5 was Grounds for Divorce.
It was
by Elbow. My number 5, mentioned it in the quiz, and you'll hear his piano playing now. It's He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother by the Hollies.
Yeah.
I love this song.
It's a lovely song, isn't it? It's a classic.
I didn't realise the Hollies were Manchester based until I did the research on who it was. So I thought I had to have this song, because I think this was one of my regrets in songs that make you cry that I didn't put in that top 10. Well, I should have put this one in there, because it's just a beautiful song. And
I mean, it reminds me of the TV ad. Where was it? Was it Hofmeister or Heineken? Where they picked him up and carried him across the road for a beer back in the 80s or whatever, when it had a resurgence.
God, I can't remember.
And then it was also like used at the end of one of the Rambo movies, wasn't it? Rambo 3.
Was it?
Oh, wow.
Are you sure?
Yeah. You have a look. It might not be Rambo 3, but it's definitely used in one of the Rambo movies.
I can't. Okay.
I think it's Rambo 3, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to have a little look at that. And it was also, I think it was used for a tribute album, or like a charity single, wasn't it? To do with Liverpool a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But yeah, beautiful song.
But yeah, it's a great song, isn't it?
And that was Elton John. He was a session player at the time, and played piano on that.
Whatever happened to him?
Oh yeah, whatever happened to Reg Dwight? oh, Reggie. Yeah. Right then, Kieran, your number 4 then, please.
My number 4 is a band who I saw live last week. It's New Order, and the song is called 1963, and it's a B-side. It's a B-side of one of their biggest singles, which was True Faith, but it's just an absolute cracker. And again, certain bands, when they're in their pomp, they can just write the songs without any effort. And it's a moody song. It's quite a disturbing song. There's so many New Order songs that I could have chosen, but for me, the fact that they just chose it as a throwaway B-side was indicative of how great they were. They had an imperial 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, True Faith was that was my number 11. It was so close to being in the top 10. It's just such a great song from the, what was that, that would have been mid-80s?
90, True Faith, was it? I thought that was more early 90s, wasn't it? True Faith. Blue Monday was more of the 80s.
Yeah, but yeah, great stuff. I don't mind some of their stuff, actually. Yeah. It's weird to say that, because Blue Monday is one of those songs that I think everybody's heard so much that you forget how iconic and good that song is. It's like Bohemian Rhapsody. You hear it so many times that you kind of just throw it away and just like, you know.
And how did New Order hold up, Kieran, when you saw them live last week?
It was a great gig. Clearly, Peter Hook's no longer there because he and Bernard Sumner can't be in the same room together. Peter Hook used to go to the same gym as me, so I got to know him, as somebody who go, hello, sort of. And they always say, never meet your heroes. Well, Johnny Marr proved to be great, and Peter Hook was a really cool guy. So it's a shame that they've fallen out to that extent. But the gig itself was superb. Bernard's a bit like Ian Brown. Singing wasn't his forte, which is always a slight problem when you're the singer. But the tunes themselves were excellent, and that they've got a bass player now who clearly has modelled himself on Peter Hook, down to the low slung nature, and you just realise that during that period from effectively Blue Monday, Power, Corruption, and Lies onwards, they were one of the best. Certainly, they were the dance band for the indie generation.
Right. Yeah. Okay, then, Neil, you're number 4.
So I had to have an Oasis song, being Manchester. I am a fan. I enjoy the earlier Oasis. I didn't I fell out of touch with them a bit when the more they got on before they broke up. The later albums that they did, wasn't sure of those. But I've gone for Champagne Supernova because I enjoy a song where when you see it or hear people cover it, or it's played at a club or a bar and everybody's having a good time. I love a good sing-along song, and I think this one is probably their sing-along song. And it's a great song, Champagne Supernova. I don't mind Liam's vocals at all. I know a lot of people have issues with them, and obviously while we were recording this, there's rumors that they're back together. We're coming back together for next year.
Really? Where did you read that?
Well, it was in some of the music presses that I've read. The rumors are it's Glastonbury. They're going to be headlining Glastonbury reformed.
Wow.
And they've said that Michael Eavis and Emily Eavis have both made no qualms about it. They have spoken time and time again to both of their managements and PRs and everything to try and get them together. So I suppose if the money's right, they'll be there. And you'd hope that they would get on for one night and do a great show. But I never saw them live. Gutted that I didn't see them live. But I think this is just one of their crowning achievements of one of their many songs that it's, like I say, it's still on my playlist today. So,
yeah, well, I'll talk about Oasis a little bit later on. I think it might be the better way of doing it. I was at Nebworth for the Saturday Nebworth in what year that was, 95 was it, 96, and it was something else. It definitely was something. But that was them just before Be Here Now came out. That was them at their absolute apex.
Height, yeah.
It kind of it drifted off a little bit after that, because I was talking to somebody at work about it today and saying that the beauty of Oasis was the fact that they. Or Noel wrote songs about the struggle of living in Manchester, having nothing. And once they got millions in the bank, it kind of took the edge off the songwriting a little bit. And then Noel seemed to get lazy and give songs out to other people to write. He said it was always about him. What you said, Kieran, earlier on about, they bring a song out and there'd be a brand new song on the other side. When Oasis brought out CD singles, it was like getting another mini album because there'd be 4 or 5 great songs, all brand new songs on this one CD single that had, it was just, the Wonderwall CD single was just fantastic. Had Round Our Way on it, had other, just brilliant songs that would be somebody's, like a hit single for somebody, but it was just a throwaway CD single track, But yeah, classic stuff. Okay, another one I didn't realize was a Manchester band with the Bee Gees. I'm gonna you've got to have a Bee Gees song on there. So I've actually gone for one of the earlier ones, and I've gone for I Started a Joke, which is a beautiful song. It's not their disco era. It's their very sort of laid back era in the same kind of like Massachusetts and mining disaster and all that. But it's a beautiful song, and I really didn't realize. Somebody at work again today said I thought they were from Australia, but I think they lived in Australia for a while, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I think they went there when they were quite young.
Yeah. So it's probably a technicality that you class them as a Manchester band, but it means I can get a Bee Gees song in there. And I wasn't going to go for one of the usual Staying Alive or Tragedy, which you could easily do because they're all bangers. But gone for Started a Joke. Okay, Kieran, your number 3 then, please.
My number 3, it is the Smiths. It is There Is a Light and It Never Goes Out. And it's a long, mournful, solemn song, but uplifting as well. And I was quite fortunate that I was, before I moved back to Brighton, which was 4 years ago, I tended to go down every other weekend to watch football. So I had a season ticket for too many years. And I was wandering past Brighton Dome, which is sort of the big event centre, with my wife. And there was a Smiths choir being formed. And I said, can I join? And this was one of the songs that we sang in the Smiths choir. And I can't sing, but we were taught to sing by a choir master, choir mistress, and it was a fantastic experience. But there are so many great songs by the Smiths, and this is where I genuinely feel conflicted, because how can somebody come out with this sense of being young, not fitting in, and reaching out to people in such a magnificent way as they did, and then turn out to be a complete bellend, which he subsequently manifested into.
Okay, how does the Smiths choir work? What exactly does that entail? How many people are in it, and just Smiths songs?
It was there was I think 20 of us. We were put together on the day. She taught us half a dozen songs. And
a cappella is this? There's no
all a cappella.
Wow.
And then we performed in front of an audience of mainly our loved ones, but anybody walking past later in the day. Very cathartic experience.
Is there footage of this? Is there?
No.
that was a definite. That was a definite article. Okay, Neil, you're number 3, please.
So for me, it's New Order. I mentioned it earlier on. It's Blue Monday. The reason I chose this was my introduction to New Order. I think, like a lot of people, it's like you said, it's a great indie dance track. It doesn't feel dated at all, being from the 80s. To me, it still feels as fresh as. And you know, a lot of the times back in the day when you get a 12-inch version of a song, they were just extended and made the song rubbish. Whereas the 12-inch version of this actually was probably my first 12-inch single that I thought was just a song of its own, even better than the 7-inch. It made it a lot better. So yeah, Blue Monday for me just holds up as an absolute banger.
Beautifully crafted. It's
still crafted. The biggest selling 12-inch single of all time?
Is it really?
I know it was. Yeah. I think it certainly was for the rest of that century.
Yeah.
I guess people don't buy singles anymore. So
no, which is always makes me sad.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's I mean, to me, I haven't got bored of this song yet. I could listen to it all the time, and it's nice that the sound of this sort of sound is making a sort of comeback a bit. The 80s sort of music to me is making this sort of a bit of a resurgence. It started a few years ago with The Weeknd, you know, that Blinded Lights song, very 80s, and it seems to be coming back. You know, so much so that I'm in complete shock that the mullets come back, even though I've warned my kids that, you know, I'm still having PTSD from my mullet from the 80s. Be careful, you know, be careful.
Well, wait until the old permed mullet comes back, the old hoddle waddle look. Then you got to worry. But yeah, it's a great tune, isn't it? It absolutely is a great tune. Okay, my number 3. I think you mentioned 10cc. Was 10cc the number 1 band?
Number 1, yeah.
So I love 10cc. I could have picked any one of their hits, but I've actually chosen Things We Do for Love, which I think is one of their greatest. They're the closest I can think of to a band that sounds like what the Beatles would have turned into, I feel. Just the way that, you know, great melodies, great lyrics, stuff that you just listen to, and they just got so many good melodies. And different kinds of songs as well. It's not just one kind of song. I remember when we, back in the day, Neil, when we interviewed Kevin Godley, didn't we? And you celebrated him for singing, for writing.
Well, I asked him how the inspiration came, because when you read it, his name's on it.
I'm Not in Love.
I'm Not in Love, yeah.
And then he very curtly told you that he didn't write that one.
Yeah.
That was the bit that got me.
But his name was on there when I researched it, you see.
It was so funny.
It was awful.
Because I could just see the colour draining out of Neil's face. Just
I
a little
thought
bit
the
of-
internet has lied to me. Since when does the internet ever lie?
Exactly. Okay, we're nearly
I think
there.
Godley and Cream were the sort of the art house
Yes.
of 10cc, and then was it Graham Gouldman and the other
Eric
guy?
Stewart.
They were Eric Stewart, and they were the pop.
Yeah.
Because I have seen them
Have you?
live. Clearly, they've got seen them live twice, but without Godley and Cream. But they did do, and they must clearly on talking terms. And Graham Gouldman he just loves music, and I think he wrote some songs for the Hollies back in the '60s.
Oh, right.
He certainly wrote. He wrote a bus stop song, and so on. So they have been knocking around for a long time, and it's another case of Manchester bands where they fell out with each other.
Yeah.
And I think they would have gone on to be quite masterful, but they've got different desires and clearly operating in different. There was a pop part of the band and there was an art part of the band.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, Kieran, we're nearly there, but it's your number 2, please.
The first band I saw when I went to university in Manchester in 1980 was The Fall. And this bloke in a tank top and flares got on stage with a snarl, and he just started singing in a voice like no voice I'd ever heard before. And I've got to be honest, no voice I've ever heard of since. Marky Smith is a work of art. He is a complete one-off. And this song is Creep. It's sarcastic. It's got an uplifting beat. There's a fantastic book called The Fallen, where somebody's gone out and they've interviewed everybody who at some point in their life has been in the fall, which is probably half of Manchester, because Marky Smith was an absolute nightmare to work with, and yet he still managed to command this ragtag of musicians, of all of whom tended to have a lot of talent, and the stories you read about the band, but the number of superb songs they put out. And the biggest problem with The Fall was, for every one gig you go to see of theirs, which was great, there would be another 5 which were a complete write-off, because he'd either had too much to drink, he'd had too many pills, he was in a bad mood, but you still went along, because if you did get one of those good gigs, it would hold in your memory for a long time.
What was the strike ratio, did you say, in regards to good gigs to bad ones?
Probably about 1 in 5.
Like 1 in 5.
You
It's like playing Russian roulette
devoted.
with live music, isn't it?
Yes.
Just wondering, well, am I going to get a good one tonight? Am I going to get a good one?
It's a band that I seem to have missed, really, because I've got friends who are big into The Fall, and I must give them a listen. Frank Skinner famously is his favourite band.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
There you
just
go.
passed
But
me
that's a
by.
great story. That's a great
Kieran, what
story.
album would you recommend to start with on The Fall?
Hex Education Hour,
Hex Education.
or Live at the Witch Trials.
Wow.
That was a good
You best do a good gig there at the Witch Trials, don't you?
Yes,
You don't want to get a bad one there. Okay then, Neil, you're number 2, please.
So I'm going back to Tim Booth and James. I'm a fan. I've enjoyed pretty much everything they've done, but I still hold up that my favorite of their songs is Laid. I love the lyrics. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of relevance. I love the style of it. And I love the snappiness of it. The song. It's not a long song, and sometimes it's nice to get one of those songs that are a couple of minutes and in you go. And it's one that I love to sing along to in the car. So maybe next time we do ever do a dual karaoke, we'll try this one, pal.
Shall we try this one?
Yeah.
Famously,
maybe.
we sang "Sit Down" at one of our
We
live
did.
shows, didn't
Yeah,
we, Neil?
a couple of times.
That was your very
yeah.
first. Was that your first go singing in front of? Live people?
No. We did Dizzy, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we
Before.
did. That was a long time ago. Oh, the happy days, the happy days. Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah, I must admit, this one was in my top sort of 15 that could have broke into my top 10, but.
Yeah, and my son, he doesn't play it live to people, but he does. He's an aspiring musician, Kieran, that's trying to get out there and get people to listen to him. But he does a little cover of this for me, and I really enjoy
fantastic.
I really enjoy the way he does
bless.
it. Yeah.
I'd actually had this one written down, and then I was wavering as to this or Born of Frustration or Him from a Village, and I went for Born of Frustration. But yeah, it's an absolute cracker.
They did some right bangers, like Say Something. I think it's just a great and beautiful song. We can just keep going, but
yeah.
They're just great.
Wonderful. I'm going to go back to one of yours, Neil, The Verve. And again, I could have picked Sonnet. It's a great tune. Obviously, Bittersweet Symphony, but I'm going for The Drugs Don't Work.
Right.
Beautifully done. There is I can't remember the name of the song on Richard Ashcroft's first solo album that reminds me of this, and it's another beautiful bit of work. But it's just another one that should have been in my top 10 songs that make you cry. To be fair, in fact, I'm not sure whether it was. It might have been. I can't remember. But it's just a beautiful song, heartbreaking, but beautiful.
It is.
So
it's the way he sings them. That's what's so. He just got this technique of singing.
He's got a great voice.
It's a lot of emotion, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it was about his mum, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah, if I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly. I remember hearing him. I think he was talking like Chris Evans or someone about the writing of the song and about how hard it was to write. But I'm assuming it was something like that. Yeah. So good. Okay, before we reveal our number ones, Kieran, do you want to give us your 10 to 2? Neil will do the same, and then I'll do the same.
My 10 to 2 is starting off with number 10, James, Born of Frustration. Number 9, The Stone Roses, Waterfall. Number 8, The Cortinas, Not 19 Forever. Number 7, The Buzzcocks, Something's Gone Wrong Again. Number 6, Magazine, Shot by Both Sides. Number 5, The Chameleons, Second Skin. Number 4, New Order, 1963. Number 3, The Smiths, There Is a Light and It Never Goes Out. And number 2, The Fall with Creep.
Lovely. And Neil, your 10 to 2?
So at number 10, I had This Charming Man, The Smiths. Number 9, Step On, Happy Mondays. Number 8, This Is How It Feels, in Spiral Carpets. Number 7, Ever Fallen in Love, Buzzcocks. Number 6, Lucky Man, Verve. Number 5, Grounds for Divorce, Elbow. Number 4, Champagne Supernova, Oasis. Number 3, Blue Monday, New Order. And number 2, Laid, James.
Lovely. And mine is number 10, When We Are Together, the 1975. 9, Breakout, Swing Out Sister. 8, Grounds for Divorce, Elbow. 7, Girlfriend in a Coma, The Smiths. 6, Patience, Take That. 5, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, The Hollies. 4, I Started a Joke, The Bee Gees. 3, Things We Do for Love, 10cc. And number 2, The Drugs Don't Work by The Verve. So, Kieran, what is your number 1 song from Manchester?
My number 1, it's Joy Division, the greatest band of all time, from the greatest album of all time, and this is New Dawn Fades.
Okay,
I'm waiting for Pav. We've got to try and encourage Pav into Joy Division. Kieran, he's tried, but he's not getting it.
Oh wow!
I have tried. And the thing is, see, I'm pretty sure I know that Neil's number 1 is Joy Division as well, isn't it, Neil?
It is. It is Joy Division, but there's a personal reason why I've got a different song. And I've gone for Atmosphere because it's personal to me. I spoke about it on when we did the saddest songs. Listen to that and you'll find out the story. But it means a lot to me. It means a lot to other people.
So why this one, Kieran?
I remember listening to this when it came out, and I associated it with what was happening in Poland at the time, where the Lech Walesa, the shipyard worker, had formed a union, and it was being crushed by the communists, and that hope that was being destroyed, and I associated that song with what was happening. You know, I was 17 at the time. When you are angry and political, it's also a brilliant song. It's a dark song. And the final notes as the song extinguishes, just very emotional. But equally with Neil, Atmosphere is being played at my funeral. That's what I'm going out to. And I think anybody that knows that song and anybody knows about Ian Curtis, and I used to go running in Macclesfield, so where he was brought up. I've visited his grave on occasions. I've got every book on Joy Division that has ever come out from all of the different parties, from Ian Curtis's widow, Peter Hook, Barney, other biographers, and so on. I'm a Joy Division obsessive.
Okay.
I mean, I did very nearly, Kieran, put Disorder, because I really like that song as well. That's just another classic. That apart from Love Will Tear Us Apart, I think Disorder may be one of the easiest ones to get into Joy Division with.
So is there a specific album to listen to, or is it better to like say with Kieran, go onto Apple Music, go onto like the essentials of Joy Division and listen to like a cross section of all their stuff? What's the best way of getting into something like Joy Division?
Well, there are only 2 albums.
Oh, right.
There was Unknown Pleasures, which was their debut album, and then there was Closer. And the more you listen to Closer, you realise it was a suicide note from a young man who was clearly going through internal turmoil. So I think Closer is probably the slightly better of the 2, but I personally would pick up the tracks from a playlist.
Right.
Because there's very little filler in the Joy Division canon of music, in my view.
Right. Okay.
Go the essentials, pal.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it you find that you struggle with Joy Division?
I don't know, because I don't want to be disrespectful. I
Well,
don't.
no, it's not disrespectful.
It's just
is
that,
it?
like, I mean, to be fair, the only song I've really ever listened to is "Love Will Tear Us Apart." Okay, and I always find that the fact that I can't get over the fact that it sounds like he's singing out of tune. And that's what gets me. Like, it just sounds like it. And that's all I can't. I know it's a great song. And I think I've said that on this podcast before when you've talked about that song. So I haven't given it a proper go. Not like Radiohead, where I spent a whole afternoon listening to Radiohead and just I just couldn't understand why anybody found Radiohead just so depressing. But I need to give Joy Division a go. I definitely need to go, because so many people say to me, you should listen. It's not just tonight. I've had so many people say to me, listen to Joy Division and just tell me what you think. So I will tomorrow. I will give it a go. I will listen to the essentials part on and just have a listen, and we'll see how it goes.
And fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But yeah. So Neil, you said Atmosphere is your number 1.
Yeah, and explain why. I mean, it's a personal one to me, very personal. There's situations that have come on when this song particularly has been playing that just and. It is, the title of the song is exactly what the song is. It's an atmosphere that you're listening to. And yeah, it makes me stop in my tracks, this song. Whenever I hear it on the TV, on the radio.
I won't play too much of it then.
No, I might start crying. But it's a beauty. I think, when we talk about beauty, sometimes that term is thrown around far too much. Beautiful, but that is a beautiful song. Beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. Right. I will give it a go, I promise, and I will let you know what I think. My number 1 had to have an Oasis song, and I'll have the song. It's funny you said, Kieran, about Atmosphere. That's a song that at your funeral. This is the song that's we're playing at my funeral, and it's The Master Plan by Oasis. This was one of those songs. I think this was the song that was on the Wonderwall CD single along with Round Our Way, and it's a masterpiece of a song. It's an absolute masterpiece of a song. It's Noel Gallagher hasn't written a song. What wonderful English! Hasn't written a song better than this. And it's weird to think that this was like one of the first Oasis songs that he wrote. It's just a fantastic song. It was in my songs that make me cry, I'm pretty sure. But that's one of the songs that I'll be carried out to at my funeral, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, it is a great song. I agree.
Yeah. So I know we've done songs from Manchester, Kieran. What would you say is your favourite band from Manchester?
In terms of the band that I've seen live, it would be the Chameleons.
Okay.
I've seen them more than any other band, with the exception of The Cure, in terms of live performances. In terms of the best songs, Joy Division. And in terms of the most Manchester, The Fall, just for that chippy northern, couldn't give a cuss about anybody else.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
We did get some honourable mentions. At MGH0406 said Black Rose by Sad Cafe should have been a monster. At Babble Quack said Pacific by 808 State. Lisa Buchanan said, well, Bee Gees, obviously, but Elbow definitely comes in as a strong second. Saw them at a super intimate venue and loved. Love the Verve. Bittersweet Symphony continues to appear in the charts as best song ever. Herman's Hermits, of course. Simply Red, holding back the years. Finally, as much as I am not a Morrissey fan, can't have the list without mentioning the Smiths. Anna Cochran says Lisa Buchanan, the same with the Smiths. Don't care for Morrissey that much, but Johnny Marr, whoa. She says, Dawn Sardella airs. We know the real answer is always Joy Division's Isolation. Plus, you all, I get mad if I say anything but Take That. So she's happy with Take That as well. That's fine. Corinne Pastor says, oh, I love almost anything Oasis, Champagne Supernova, Don't Look Back in Anger, Wonderwall, Stand By Me, etc. I also love some New Order, True Faith, Bizarre Love Triangle, Blue Monday. Laura Matthews, one of my favourite bands is James, so I nominate the classic Sit Down. Plus, these two never get old, Happy Mondays, Step On, and Stone Roses, Waterfall. Lindsay Pananen, I second all of what Lisa Buchanan said, especially the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony, which is the most epic of epic songs, and the Smiths' Morrissey music has my whole heart. And Maria Pereira, Buzzcocks, What Do I Get? An Orgasm Addict, and Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart. There you go. We did it, Kieran. We did it. And I feel that was as epic as it needs to be, and I love the fact that we've got more homework to do. I've got a whole afternoon of listening to Joy Division tomorrow. Is what I'm definitely going to do.
And you don't come back
man.
till you start liking it.
I'll see you next year.
Yeah.
So, Kieran, what have you got lined up podcast wise? And I mean, it's been, like we said, as we're recording this, it's been quite a big day today in regards to football finance and football news, hasn't it?
Yes, I've already done 4 radio shows. We've had to bring forward the recording of this show because I'm on BBC News about the new World Cup. The world of football and money are ever intertwined. There are lunatics in charge of individual clubs. There are fans who are getting angry about an awful lot of things. It's been fairly non-stop, and with both myself and Kevin, and we've got to take it. We do 2 hours of material every week on the world of football finance. Loads of people have said to us, "Well, if you're so clever, why can't you go and sort it out yourself?" So next week we've got a book coming out where exactly that is our particular achievement. We're going to take a football team from park football to the Champions League. Kevin's written all of the funny bits, and I've done all the numbers.
Well, there you go. We shall put a link. I'm assuming that's on Amazon and every other good and bad bookshop that you can get it from, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you buy it from Bloomsbury, the publishers, and if you put price of football 30, you'll get a 30% discount on the launch price. So
there you go. Well, if you want to send me the link,
independent bookstops,
send me the link to that, and I'll put it in the show notes along with the show note. The link for the podcast. I mean, with what's happened today, I'm assuming the next episode of the podcast is going to be just full of meaty goodness. So that's wonderful. Before we actually say our goodbyes, Neil, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with us and all that gubbins?
Absolutely, I can. So email us at top10pods@hotmail.com, where you can ask us any questions or give us any ideas for top 10s. You can find us on all social media at top10pods. Give us a click, give us a like, give us a follow. Please do help. Come and support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods. All sorts of rewards where you could even be a guest yourself. Check out all the links via the link tree. You can find the link in the show notes. And please do come give us a review, give us a like, give us a comment, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Wonderful. Kieran, thank you so much for spending some time during your busy day. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you about everything, to be fair.
Well, thank you so much for the invite to be given an opportunity to talk about music, which is my favourite subject. I prefer music to football. And my favourite city, which is Manchester. I'm absolutely made up. So thank you so much for the invite.
Oh, it's been our pleasure. Absolutely our pleasure. Like I say, we'll put the link in for the book and the podcast in the show notes. So go and check that. And don't forget, you can get a discount as well with that code. So we'll put all the information in there for that. Neil, thank you so much. Kieran, thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you, Kieran. Thank you very much. And we'll look forward to seeing you again on this show, hopefully.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody else, for watching and listening. And let's go start the countdown.
10, 9,